Hey everyone, Attorney Davis Yance here. Listen, this is day one in a 5-part series we're doing talking about a lost, banned book. So here's what happened. In 2021, I was still in the Air Force Reserves as a lieutenant colonel, and it was during the Biden administration, and there was a rapid effort to indoctrinate the military with a whole new set of values and principles. Now, we saw some of this during the Obama administration, but during the Biden administration, it was on the fast track. And I could give many just different examples of the kinds of things that we were exposed to. But the primary thing was that we were being given anti-extremism training. The problem with that anti-extremism training is that essentially we were being told that anyone who holds to traditional values regarding marriage and family was potentially an extremist. Now, just think about that. Traditional Christian values, American principles, the kinds of ideas and concepts that have been accepted throughout the history of our nation that are based on biblical principles that our nation was founded on, were the kinds of things we were being told were extreme beliefs. Now, in the midst of this, one of my coworkers showed me a document that he and another officer had found online in an old PDF version, almost not readable, but they found this document that was actually an Air Force training manual from the 1950s. I'll just think about that. An Air Force training manual from the 1950s. They found this document. They shared a copy with me, and I was just blown away by it. And the reason I was blown away by it is it was just so simple. This book contained simple, standard, logical things that every military officer should know, should be doing, should understand when it comes to military service. And it talked about things like character, courage, morality, and it was actually based on biblical standards. That's right. An Air Force training manual based on those simple standards. So this book, this training manual was called Living for Leadership. And the concept was that the Air Force needed an answer to the Soviet Union, an answer to the Cold War. But here's the reality. This training manual was essentially forgotten about, and worse, during the Obama administration, there were efforts to erase any vestiges of this training manual from the United States Air Force. For example, at Air Combat Command headquarters, there were a couple of quotes from this book, a couple of pictures with quotes associated with them from this book that were on the walls of Air Combat Command headquarters. And there was a demand letter sent by someone who was offended by them during this time frame. And there were lawyers that got involved, and they essentially scared Air Combat Command into taking these quotes from this book off the walls of their Air Combat Command headquarters because they were afraid they might be too extreme or offensive to people. So tomorrow, and as we go through this series, I'm going to share with you some of those quotes, but just keep in mind this book, this training manual called Living for Leadership, is something that was essentially banned by the United States Air Force and was not talked about, despite the fact that it held some of the keys to why the United States was able to defeat the Soviet Union and cause the collapse of the Berlin Wall. So tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about what that solution was and how they got there. But for now, just keep in mind, Living for Leadership was a book deemed so offensive that it had to be stripped from the United States Air Force, despite the fact that it was a critical tool in winning the Cold War. Hey, thanks for listening. Looking forward to the next videos in this series. Take care.